My name's David, and I wanted to thank you for allowing me to come and share my story here tonight. One of the reasons why I'm here is because what happened to me and my family this last summer could happen to anybody. I was never ever thought it was a problem in Oklahoma for the human trafficking until I was thrown into the middle of it. We had seen many billboards across 169, we've seen movies, and that's how we thought of human trafficking. We never thought it was an issue. And then all of a sudden, we were right in the middle of it. For me, my story started in the end of August. My daughter was headed back to college. She had just gotten back previously 2 months earlier from a missions trip, 30 days in India. So she thought she could take on the world, and she was trying to help an individual. And 2 weeks before she did all of this, I had something that told me, hey, tell her to be careful with this individual. And I had a conversation with her, and she was able to tell me a little bit about him. She said, Dad, he's a recovering drug addict. He's got a good heart. I said, I understand, but something's telling me to be careful. And I wish I would have listened to that a little bit more than I did and go a little bit further with it, because she did throw the card of her age, and she says, I'm able to take care of myself. She usually would finish her job, she would drive back to the university, and she would text us. This particular night, we didn't get the text. It was a Sunday night, and me and my wife were a little worried. She usually would get back around midnight. So we tried to call Monday, no answer, no response to the text. We tried to call Tuesday, Wednesday, and then eventually Thursday the university had called and said that she had missed her classes. At this time, me and my wife, you can imagine as any parent, we were like, something's not right. Friday we ended up going through her phone log, and we saw a bunch of numbers that were on her phone that weren't numbers that she had normally called. And so we began to look into those numbers. We did the reverse lookup, paid the money to find the phone numbers. We searched Facebook to try to find matching numbers, so we had names. And I went through and I called those numbers. And fortunately for us, one of the numbers that I called did pay off, and I got somebody that was on the inside of that group to start talking to me. At that point, she shared with me what was happening. She had mentioned to me that a particular gang in Tulsa had gotten my daughter. They took her phone, her ID, and they got her high on meth. And they were planning on taking her out of state to Tennessee for prostitution. They're good at what they do. I mean, they know how to do it, and they will find somebody that's vulnerable. They'll find somebody that's I guess, with a helping heart like she did. She thought she could help a guy. You'd look at the guy, you wouldn't think anything. He didn't look like a drug, nice looking young kid. And all of a sudden, here he is, and the next day, he's no longer with her, and got her handed over to this gang. And I'm sure there was some type of a payment involved somewhere. But at that point, all I was worried about was getting her back. A few days later, I got a text from one of the ladies that I had called, and she said, if you ever want to see your daughter again, you need to hurry, because they just came by here asking my husband for a ride, and they're taking her to Tennessee in the morning. So if you ever want to see her again, you need to come now. At that point, you can imagine, I dropped what I was doing. My wife was at a different location. I called her. We met there. We got there the same time the police, because we called the police on the way. And when we got there, she was with one of the guys, and I didn't know what to do, and I was a wreck. Just really worried, because number one, I couldn't get the police at that point. She was 21. She had her own decisions, so they would ask her if she was in danger. And they had her on the drug, the meth, and that meth it was not my daughter that you saw in front of you. My wife was there, and she just couldn't believe we hadn't seen that type of drug in people. And so finally, the 5th police officer, we got to arrest my daughter. It was the only way we could get her away from the group that had her. And we did get her in jail. It was a misdemeanor is all he could pick her up for. But we set up at the jail for the next 24 hours, because it was only, I think, $350 fine or whatever it was. But we set up at the jail for the next 24 hours. I sat outside the jail to make sure nobody bailed her out. I can tell you, when you are working with the police and the law enforcement, make sure that you're persistent in trying to get everything you can. If one person tells you no, call another department. They're going to be able to work every angle you've got. And I know in our case, I'd talked to OHP, I'd talked to the DEA, I talked to the human trafficking, the narcotics. I called everybody that I could, and I wasn't going to stop until I'd found her. We got her into a treatment program. She is now into a facility that is helping her, and we just got a letter from the facility saying she's above schedule, doing great, and it's through the prayers and through the grace of God that she's able to do that. So the reason why I'm here tonight is for you parents that are out here and you're watching, I want to make sure you don't have to go through this. There's some simple things that you can do when you have the gut feeling inside that says you need to check up and know where your son or your daughter is. Follow that feeling. Look into it. Know who they're with. Know what kind of people they're with. But also keep them in prayer. Make sure you pray for your kids, because without prayer in this whole situation, we wouldn't have made it through. We wouldn't have got the miracles that happened to be able to find my daughter. Be careful who you're hanging with. Know who your kids are hanging with, because that's something very important. It just takes a second for them to be with the wrong person. I don't know if my daughter was drugged. I don't know if she did it willingly. We haven't figured that out yet. But I do know that the people she was with, if she wouldn't have been with those people, it wouldn't have happened. So make sure that when you have something that's on the inside of you, make sure that you follow follow that feeling that you have on the inside, and continue to ask the questions. Your kids may get mad at you. They may say, "Don't you trust me?" But I promise you, it's well worth it. Them getting mad one night is well worth not having to search for them for 2 weeks, 3 weeks out on the streets. We were lucky. Some people never find their kids when they get taken. 2 and 3 years missing. We're in a group that prays for other kids and prays for other parents that are going through this. There's kids that have been gone for 3, 4, 5 years that they've not been able to find. A lot of people don't realize it's a problem. A lot of people was like me. They would drive through on 169, they would see the billboard up on the street, and you'd like, oh, it doesn't happen in Oklahoma. Or they'd see a movie and it was a movie to them, and then all of a sudden you realize it's not just a movie. It does happen in the Bible Belt of America right here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. It takes all of us. It takes you when you go to the schools. Keep your eyes open. Look and see what's happening around you. Protect each other, and it will make a difference. We can all make a difference. For me, it turned out great. It doesn't always happen that way. But my hope for you is that you'll never have to go through it. And for all of us together, if we all pull together and fight it, we can stop the human trafficking.